This is a segment we launched a couple of weeks ago, Cheat Sheet, where we look under the hood at the portfolios of some of the best investors, celebrities, politicians, you name it. And today we are going to look at Caledonia Investments. They are an Australian-based global investment manager, and we're going to have a look at their main fund, Caledonia Investments.
Yeah, now this is from their 13F filing. They're big enough that even though they're not American, they filed this 13F in the United States, and that makes public every quarter their shareholdings, what they've been buying and selling. It's not a full accounting of everything they own, but it does give us a good view into some of their bigger positions. And there are some very interesting names that they have been buying or that they've been holding for a while. Some that we've spoken about on the show and quite familiar with.
So let's start at the top. Ren, they've got 12 positions, so I would say reasonably concentrated.
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing that's concentrated in this portfolio.
Yeah, 50% of the reportable investments here is in one company.
Wow.
And that is Flutter Entertainment. Now that is the Irish sports betting giant.
So they are long sports bet.
Yeah. Now, literally sports bet. So Flutter owns Sportsbet in Australia. They own FanDuel in the US. They own Paddy Power in the UK. They're really like the biggest sports betting player in the world.
So the stock's up 18% in the last 12 months. I think it IPO'd way back in early 2000s, and it looks like it's up about 1,300% since it IPO'd. But yeah, 51% of the portfolio is made up of Flutter. Then another large position, Ren, is Zillow Group.
Yeah, now for people who are unfamiliar with Zillow, it's America's equivalent of realestate.com.au. It's a real estate listings portal. And Caledonia have been quite famous about how bullish they are on Zillow. I think probably because they're Australian and because they saw the success of realestate.com.au, they've sort of been very long Zillow for a very long time.
Yeah. It's actually more than 22%. There's actually two share classes here, and they have both 22% for the one and 9%. So over 30% of their portfolio is Zillow.
Yeah. Now they were bullish on Zillow pre-COVID.
Yeah.
From this reporting, they still own it, so they've held it all the way through. Let me tell you the story of Zillow during the last 5 years.
Okay.
So pre-COVID, in that initial COVID crash, when everything fell majorly in like 6 weeks, it sort of lost half of its value. Zillow did. Then it ran crazy. It went up more than 400% in the go-go years of 2020 and 2021. And then from its peak, it fell 85%.
Wow.
When it just got smashed with all those unprofitable tech companies. It also was doing this thing where it was not just a listings portal, but it was investing in property. It was like buying houses and trying to flip them. It bombed.
Yeah.
It bombed. So Zillow fell 85%. And then from there, it's doubled again, back up at 100%.
Unbelievable.
And all that story, it's about where it started 5 years, 4.5 years ago.
What do they say? What does Buffett say? You want to hold companies that if the market closes, you're going to be happy to hold it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you were holding it that entire time and the market's opened again, you would have known nothing happened.
Nothing happened, yeah. It's still a dominant listing portal. So that's a massive holding in their portfolio.
Big holding.
Yeah.
Then their third largest at just under 7% is Liberty Media Corp. We've spoken about this on the show plenty of times. They are the owner of Formula One.
Yeah. There's 9 different Liberty Media shares. So you got to be careful and make sure you're buying the right one. But the one that these guys own is the Formula One.
Yeah, Flonk.
Wonk.
Yeah. So they own 6%. It makes up 6% of their portfolio. And then everything from there is sort of small, slim pickings, but a few notable ones. Just Eat Takeaway.
Yep.
They own Menulog.
Yeah. They're like the food delivery giant. They're European, but they own a heap of different ones. Just Eat Takeaway.com, Menulog, Grubhub. Hasn't been a good time to be in the food delivery game, I've got to say.
No.
If you look at their share price from when they, really from like the late 2020 period when sort of things started falling away, they're down almost 90%.
Ren, they have your stock of the year as well, Light and Wonder. Light and Wonder, they are in gambling products.
Yeah, they're the pokies player that's kind of challenging Aristocrat.
Yeah, big time. A couple of other notable names. Warner Music Group is in there. Interestingly as well, Ren, they're long online courses.
Yes,
So
yes.
Udemy or Udemy, however you want to pronounce it, and Coursera.
Coursera.
Both are very large online marketplaces for courses. You can go on, upload a course and sell it if you'd like, or go there and purchase courses across a multiple of disciplines. So yeah, long online courses.
Yeah. So I think that's probably a good summary of how they're investing. I think, very consolidated. You can sort of see some big positions. They've obviously held some of these positions for a long time. Zillow, multiple years. But not names that are super unfamiliar. Like, we've spoken about a lot of these companies on the podcast before. Formula One, we've touched on a lot. Zillow, we've spoken about. Flutter, we've spoken about. So again, I think a reminder that we're going to see over and over again throughout this series is the best investors in the world, they own companies that a lot of people have probably heard of before. The challenge isn't in finding the undiscovered name. It's just identifying the great companies amongst the sea of all of them that we've heard of before.
Good to see no big tech in there. I like that.
Is that good?
I like it. I like seeing some names that are semi-familiar, but they have conviction in something other than NVIDIA.
Yeah, nice.
You know what I mean? Anyway, if you have an investor, a celebrity, a politician, anyone that you would like us to try and go under the hood on their investment portfolio, if the information is publicly available, we will do our best.
Well, speaking of, just to give you a taste of the politicians, we won't go too deep into this, but we did want to have a look at Anthony Albanese, the Australian Prime Minister, because Australian politicians have to publicly declare their interests.
Yes.
And so you can see what they own. Here's something that's a bit disappointing from our Prime Minister.
Yeah.
No shareholdings.
No shareholdings, Ren.
Equity investments. No managed funds.
No.
No individual stocks. No ETFs.
No.
What is this guy doing? Let's send him a copy of our book.
I know. Unsurprisingly, he does have 2 investment properties.
Yes.
Just like almost every other politician on the list.
Yeah.
We had to scroll a long way before we found a politician who was invested in equities. And this is the structural issue with this country, that they're all so long housing and so short equities, they don't have enough skin in the game to give a shit about what goes on in the share market.
Yeah, if the political incentives around the stocks only going up were the same as the political incentives around the Australian housing continue to go up,
Yes.
God would have a much more popular podcast.
Yes.
But here's something fun. It looks like Albo got involved in debt recycling in 2022 because his house in Marrickville changed from a owner-occupied to an investment property in 2022.
Nice.
So he must have remortgaged or, changed the mortgage to... well, I guess in 2022 he also moved houses into
the
taxpayer-provided accommodation.
Yes.
But yeah, 2 investment properties. Had a third, a unit in Canberra, which he sold. Again, he got taxpayer-funded accommodation in Canberra.
It's fascinating to see when you go through all of them, how many of them, Kingston, very popular suburb in Canberra for investment properties.
Classic. Well, they would live there when Parliament City.
So,
yeah. So, look,
come on, politicians, get into it.
Come on, Albo, buy a stock.
Get DHHF or something in there. Anyway, hit us up, equitymates.com/contact if you'd like us to try and dig under the hood of anyone else's investment portfolio. If we can publicly find it, we will do it. But Ren, that brings us to the end of today's show. If you'd like to ask a question, if you would like to submit to any of our other segments, investor confessions, you name it, come to equitymates.com/contact. And if you get a lot of value from our show, we would really appreciate if you could just leave a rating and a review through your podcast app right now. It'll take you less than 30 seconds, and it does really help us get in front of new Equity Mates listeners. But as always, thank you for listening, and Ren, we'll pick it up next week.
Sounds good.
Equity Mates.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.